All right, welcome in. Wrong side of the pond, episode 38. He is DJ Schweitzer. I'm Jeremy Lance, and bit of a weekend.
It was. You know, we have Cinco de Mayo to celebrate today.
That is. We are certainly celebrating.
We have drinks galore. I think there's
I got some bourbon here. You got me a beer also.
Yeah, I got a nice drink for myself.
You doing a little gin and tonic?
A little gin and tonic tonight.
We're keeping it classy.
We're keeping it classy for the, tail end of the season.
I'm going with the Woodford Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful bouquet on that.
Yeah?
Bourbon have a bouquet? I don't know how that works.
Maybe it does.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Quite a weekend in the EPL. Some twists, some turns, some draws that were oh so costly.
Some slips, maybe?
Yeah, some more slips.
Maybe we can't use the word slips.
Yeah, I got yelled at last week for using slips.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe we should try to fit the word slip in as many times as possible today. Maybe.
I hear if we do a lot of slipping references, maybe we can get an internship working the social media for Tottenham.
We probably could.
So,
yeah. If you missed Tottenham making a rather large gaffe on their public social media channel, Twitter, related to the Liverpool game, that may or may not have also been a slip in itself.
Yeah. Slip sliding away.
Yeah, we'll slip more of those in. So, aside from the Liverpool game,
a lot of other EPL stuff. Chelsea, as well as Liverpool, being held to just the 1 point. Manchester United, week 2 of the Giggs experiment.
And it's back to the normal.
Yeah, they fall to Sunderland.
Okay.
1-0.
Okay.
Arsenal win.
Mm-hmm.
City get the big win over Everton.
And then 2 teams actually relegated.
Yeah, Cardiff and Fulham.
So we'll round up, talk a little bit about all the matches that went down this weekend. Also had some Champions League action to talk about.
Yeah, a bit of that, as we now know our final, an all-Madrid final. Are you excited about an all-Madrid final?
I'm excited. There were a lot of people that were upset last year about it being an all-German final, right?
It's funny, though, because also, last year, the all-German final was supposed to be the representation of the new guard in football. Was German football was taking over. None of this Spanish crap.
No.
Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah. Well, here they are again, back. Let's not also forget that the Spanish side's also having a good run in the Europa League as well. So.
Yeah. And, of course, we'll jump over to MLS. We got some MLS action. Some big matchups. Kansas City hosting Columbus.
Top of the table clash in the East.
Yeah. And plus, a lot of the big teams getting big wins. New England, Portland, Seattle.
Real Salt Lake.
Real Salt Lake, a crazy victory there. We'll talk about that one. But let's start with the EPL. Big weekend. Second to last weekend.
A lot of things needed to be sorted out still.
Yeah.
We talked for weeks now about how there's a growing number of completely meaningless matches.
Mm-hmm. Should we quickly hit one of those right now?
We can hit as many of them as we want.
West Ham 2. Spurs. Nillerino.
I like what you did there, how you told me how that was pointless. I thought we were going to talk about something that was really unimportant, but...
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, this was definitely one of those completely unimportant matches.
Started out pretty well for you guys.
Yeah? If you mean awful.
If you mean a red card within, 11 minutes?
Nah, it was a little bit longer after that, but Kabul with a straight red, no arguments on it, definitely pulled down the opposing player.
He's had second or third sending off of the year?
It's his second, but on top of that, he was out injured for 2/3 of the year, so he's
not a campaign to look back on fondly.
Yeah, he'll probably frown upon this one. But let's be honest, Spurs didn't have much to play for. 6th place is more or less wrapped up for them. There needs to be a lot of favorable results for them to slip, and now impossible for them to climb any higher. So I wasn't really expecting much out of this. Of course, I watched it, but Tottenham are on the beach, just like my attention span.
Well, hopefully they're not on the beach too much. They do have one last goal they need to get, which is if they get a point, that'll knock United out of Europe altogether. No chance of getting into European competition because United 0, Sunderland 1.
And for Sunderland, that just about assures safety.
Yeah.
Not quite.
You get some. They have the upper hand in the situation. Larson got the goal in the first half. All the air kind of out of the balloon from last week for United fans.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Giggs off to a hot start. Everyone thought, oh, here's the savior.
Well, hot start, or as I pointed out last week, Ryan Giggs with the same result that David Moyes got earlier in the season, a 4-0 win over Norwich.
Yeah, so, I mean, not much to shake their stick at, but you would think the same thing. Sunderland, a bottom of the table side.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could get a similar type of result against them, but United looked exactly how they had under Moyes over the last couple of months. On top of the fact that, I talked about Tottenham being on the bus. How much are these United players on the bus? I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Nani, for whatever reason, was given a 5-year contract extension midway through the season. He is unmotivated.
That made no sense.
Yeah. He's been injured all year. So
you wonder what the new manager is going to come in and be like, oh, what is this?
Yeah, right? Like, but Nani? We have to deal with him for another half decade?
Yeah. And it's a stupid contract that's going to be a little difficult to transfer.
Yeah. Vidic, his mind is elsewhere already. He's already probably thinking about his time in Inter Milan. Rooney is, hoping he can get in a couple of stops at the prostitute's house before he, heads off for the World Cup.
It's a good play.
So there are a lot of things going on, and the focus is primarily on who the next manager is actually going to be. And I think it's shaped up this week. We pretty much well know that Louis van Gaal is now going to be the actual head coach of United next year. It's all been but announced at this point.
But, is he going to be good? I mean, we're now seeing these stories crop up about how he's dealt with player mutinies in the past, and I think people are trying to build him up to be something that he possibly can't live up to.
Well, first off, he does have an impeccable record. He's won European championships with Barcelona.
Yeah.
He's taken Bayern Munich really far along. But there is no doubt he is a pretty abrasive personality. Someone, I said this last week on the podcast, I think, Bayern Munich's higher-ups said he's not God, he's the father of God. He knows
he's that big of a know-it-all.
Yeah, he knows it all that well. And United need that a little bit. It seemed like Moyes was kind of babying United along and kind of treating them like, well, we played well. Things didn't fall the way we want to. And that's how you talk about a team that's trying to climb up from the mid-table.
Yeah.
But not Manchester United, a side worth millions and millions of pounds and, ultimately, supposedly one of the biggest teams on the planet. They can't accept that. So I think they deserve that harsher criticism,
Yeah, no, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to crack a beer open here.
Yeah.
If I can.
Yeah.
Goodness me.
Sorry, it's a tough lid.
Nah, that's operator air right there.
Okay.
Let's move on to two quick, we'll push these out of the way, two quick irrelevant matches. Villa 3, Hull City 1. Not a whole lot to say on this one.
No.
So we won't say anything on this one. But there's a score.
Yeah, there was a score there.
Swansea 0, Southampton 1.
Another one of those.
Bit of a goofy goal, though. Did you see the lone goal coming at the death? Ricky Lambert making shot, gets deflected straight up in the air, comes down off the keeper's back, Lambert's right. Goals counted, obviously. He gets credit for it. Hilarity ensues.
Yeah. No, it certainly wasn't their best goal of the season, but again, these are two sides. Safety's been assured for Swansea. Southampton really can't climb themselves any higher up the table.
No, they've been kind of in the same spot all season.
A disappointing season for Swansea, pretty much wrapped up. And for Southampton, it's kind of the opposite. They've done what they've been expected to. And they're obviously trying to build, but no one was really into that match.
We mentioned two sides officially punched their ticket to the basement, to the Championship League. When you need a win, a result like this is not what you would expect. Newcastle 3, Cardiff 0.
Holy crap! Newcastle scored goals.
Scoring in droves for them. I mean, Remy, Taylor, getting in on the action there. Cardiff go down. We are done with Cardiff. Well, except for Chelsea, they have to play them at the weekend. But a team that brought us so much storyline with their owner, with their Malcolm Mackay being the dead man walking there for a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to miss Vincent Tan.
They contributed beautifully to the narrative of the EPL season.
Yeah, I mean, a guy who's recklessly changed the colors of a club, has changed their mascot and logo, really picking at the soul of the club. You expect them to call them the Cardiff Dragons next and actually make that be their official name on the whole city.
And it's funny because I think I mentioned this before, like, he had done all these things. You said change the color, change the logo and all that stuff. But he always kind of had that ability when fans got up in arms to go, hey, look what I'm doing on the field.
Yeah.
We're moving in the right direction. You can't say that anymore.
No.
His ace in the hole does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
So the Donald Sterling of the EPL, we will see him go away for I don't know. I mean, do you see Cardiff as a side that might pop right back up?
Yeah.
Do you think that they have some trouble that might make that a little bit of a challenge?
Well, I mean, it depends on how the fans react to the situation. I mean, they're already on rocky ground with the ownership and pretty upset still about the change of the club colors and things along that nature. So maybe being relegated, that could be a dent. How many people actually show up? Not worth all the battle and the fuss for a team that's just playing in the championship. So I don't know. I mean, it could be a problem, but I don't know. They'll survive.
Speaking of survival, another club looking to survive, and just like Cardiff, they didn't by a 3-goal margin. Stoke, 4 goals.
What universe is this?
Fulham, 1 goal. That sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
Fulham needed to win this match, and if you watched any of this, you saw a team that looked still as lost as they did in the middle of the season.
Right.
I mean, they looked terrible for a side that needed to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at Stoke. And generally considered a defensive side, Stoke, a side that's not going to concede a lot. But instead, it was Stoke just bringing the thunder. Stoke, by the way, we talked about how they kind of wanted to have a change of pace. They wanted to be more of a goal-scoring side this year.
Right.
With still a match to play, they have 43 goals this season. That is 9 more than they had at the end of last year. So, a bit of an improvement.
Yeah, on top of the fact that they've kind of remade themselves a little bit under Mark Hughes.
Yeah.
Brought in a different type of setup, playing different types of players. In general, being a positive football team, which isn't exactly the way that Mark Hughes has been known either. So, overall, you've got to be pleased with what they've been doing, but not so sure it's going to all the message pan out across the league.
For Fulham, I mean, this is a side that has had some success fairly recently. This is a side that has, obviously, as an American, this was Dempsey's home.
Yeah.
This is Dempsey's home even this year for a loan. Obviously, a loan now makes almost no sense in a lot of ways next year.
Nope.
To come play for a championship side is a bit goofy.
Yeah, but it's not just been Dempsey. I mean, it's been guys like Carlos Bocanegra. Mm-hmm. He was captain of Fulham for a while.
Yeah.
Brian McBride, also captain of them.
Has a bar named after him.
Yeah, has a bar at the actual ground named after Brian McBride. So there was a time where they even earned the nickname Fulham America, Full America, because they've been so friendly to it. And there are a lot of, everyone's got a friend that's a Fulham fan. I mean, they're out there.
Yeah, my buddy Jamie Ramsey of the Reds Media Relations Department, he was pretty bummed out about it. I told him I was going to get him that Saints scarf. I promised him to make him feel better. He could cry into the Cincinnati Saints scarf.
Yeah. Comfort is
comfort him over the long haul, and I made sure, I guess you got to, call your cable provider, make sure you get beIN Sport.
Yeah.
You're going to need that next year.
Yeah, it's going to be the only way you'll be able to watch them.
So, yeah, Cardiff and Fulham, you're gone.
Yeah. Who's going to be the third team down, though?
Yeah.
That becomes the question. So, Sunderland and Norwich are the two teams that seem most likely to get pulled back into the mirror.
Right.
Who do you think it's going to be?
Well, I think Norwich answered that question this weekend.
Yeah.
We'll get at it in a second. Last Saturday match, though, was the big one, the marquee match of the week. Everton, City. You look at the schedule, you said this is the one chance for Liverpool or Chelsea to gain ground on City, because this is a tough opponent. They're going to Goodison Park. This could really work out well. Everton, despite the fact that they had kind of dipped in the past couple of weeks, were a formidable bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And the match played out that way, too. Barkley getting on the score sheet early with just a wonder shot. Just a great looping goal from deep. But it didn't take long. Aguero equalizes in the 22nd minute, and then Dzeko.
It had been coming too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they were bringing it.
Yeah.
And then Dzeko with a brace that kind of straddled the halftime there. Mm-hmm. One right before, one right after. But then you thought maybe, just maybe, things could change. Everton kind of out of sorts in the second half, but had like little bursts here and there. They finally got one where Baines was, for really one of the first times all second half, able to get all the way downfield on that left side. Plays a great ball in. Lukaku heads it home. And you think game on here.
Everyone thought that.
Oh,
everyone sat up on the edge of their seats, and
we're back in business.
This could be a little bit.
I was listening to the Talk Sport broadcast as I was driving somewhere. And the commentators for like 10 minutes were just talking about other things because the match had just come to that big of a standstill. And then out of nowhere, this goal at the 65th minute. And it wasn't enough, though. City prevail. Everton falling for, the third time now in this the final stretch of the season. They pretty much all but lost that fourth place.
Right.
And City gained the ground because come Sunday morning,
the delightfulness.
Chelsea 0, Norwich 0. At least that part was also 0.
The rest of it sounded.
So Norwich, of course, as we mentioned, them and Sunderland being the two other clubs vying for that survival spot there, that last survival spot. Norwich needed the win. They needed to come out, get the last 6 points here this season. And yet they played almost as ineffectively as Fulham or some of the other sides that needed points.
Yeah, I mean, they came out looking like a side that knew they were already relegated. Like they didn't have any sort of fight left them in at all. And you kind of wonder, have they all resigned themselves already? Are they fine to go down? Maybe everyone's been assured of their places.
Yeah.
Whatever the case is, no one on that side really looked like they gave two squirts of piss at all. It wasn't even to be bothered with.
No, and on the other side of the pitch, Chelsea really just needed 1 point to survive having to deal with extra qualification for Champions League and lock into that third spot. Obviously, even before the match started, the title race was already pretty much over for them.
You guys didn't have a shot in there at all.
No, I mean, mathematically, even today, they're still alive, but some insanity has to happen.
Yeah.
Of course, this season has shown that insanity could very well happen.
And it may well.
But they needed really just a good outing to just keep things flowing, and who knows what else would happen.
Yeah.
They didn't get it. They tried. They put a lot forward. But Norwich, a side that needed 3 points, played back. Played very defensive football for most of the match. And I know I sound like the hypocritical Chelsea fan saying, "Oh, they're playing defensive football. They're playing this rope-a-dope counter football."
You guys love that.
Yeah. But that's not the point. The point is, if you're a Norwich fan, you have to be completely pissed off that your team went out there and played for 2 points less than what they needed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's overall, you have to be shocked with the type of performance they put in. You know, clearly not the desire that needs to be there for guys to maintain that type of league, and you can hardly blame them. It's been such an up and down season. Maybe they're ready for something that's a little bit more regular, that they might be able to compete better in the championship. Who knows? But overall, it's weird to see a club as big as Norwich likely to go down, especially after their players kind of just mailed it in a game that was really important.
Good move by Grant Holt.
Yeah.
Getting off of that sinking ship.
Yeah. Good riddance.
So Norwich now needs Sunderland to lose their last two, and then they have to win. That's the only way they're surviving.
Yeah.
So it's completely shot down to some very slim odds. Jose Mourinho afterwards was just as flummoxed as most of us were. Quote, "We had one team that needed 3 points to have a chance at survival, and they didn't play to win."
Well, that sounds about right.
Yeah. The other match of Sunday's action, Arsenal lolloped their way to a 1-0 victory. Giroud with the goal. Arsenal pretty much cementing that fourth place spot.
Yeah.
Champions League, here we come again.
Yeah, so I mean...
Fourth place trophy.
Yeah, they're at least assured Champions League football, where it all ends up. But the thing is about Arsenal, this is like a microcosm of what Arsenal are right now. They are occasionally good, can attack with verve sometimes, but really only do it when the pressure is off. I mean,
I think they're stuck in Fulham.
And Giroud has mirrored that perfectly. I mean, he's a guy that has been in really hot goal-scoring form at the beginning of the season, has started to pick back up at the end of this one. Neither of these games even matter anymore. So it's like Arsenal doing an Arsenal. They're only showing up at a point when nothing's really on the line any longer.
It's always easy when the weight's off shoulders.
Yeah.
We go to Monday today. It's Monday night. We're recording it. We actually just watched the replay. Skipping around to the tasty parts.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't necessarily watch it all, but we caught what we needed to.
Liverpool 3. Crystal Palace 3.
Reverse Istanbul?
Christanbul.
Christanbul. Yeah, Christanbul. So we've had a lot of requests to not say a lot about Christanbul. We've had people ask us to maintain neutral and impartial and those kind of things. And that's all great and fine. You know, we do that for the most part on this podcast. But tonight's not going to be one of those nights, and here's why. The Liverpool fans were just as vocal when things were going great for them, and we weren't saying exactly what they wanted to hear, or weren't talking as often about them as they wanted.
Weren't talking enough about Liverpool.
You know, hey, why aren't you guys talking more about Liverpool? Well, here's why: because they're going to blow the title at the end of the year.
We already knew it.
Yeah, we knew this was going to happen. We didn't want to ruin it for you.
But by the way, this morning they did get some good news. Suarez named the Football Writers Association Player of the Year.
Yeah, so that's the swoop for him.
Yep, you got it. Clean sweep.
Took both of the big awards for it. Well, I mean, there's no argument against it there, you know? If you can throw out all this personal crap.
No, I mean, he scored today. That made it, 31? Liverpool get going pretty quickly. Joe Allen.
First Liverpool goal.
I had to hear that stat a couple times to go like, wait, well, really?
Yeah.
But what about, and then, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's absolutely right. So, kind of amazing. You know, I'm still a little dumbfounded by that. But at the same time, he's been doing well for him this year. He's come along strong.
Second half, Liverpool still in control. Score the Stephen A. Smith brace inside of 2 minutes.
Way to go, Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen A. Smith, really, at that point you thought, hey, you just about getting goals. You got that 8-point deficit in the goal differential that
Right.
you needed to kind of start working on. If in fact that you end up tied with City at the end of the season. So you thought Liverpool was going to pour it on at that point. And they made strides in a lot of ways to do that. But then, with about 10 minutes left, they apparently ran out a little bit of gas.
Yeah, I mean, it was a clear, wall that they hit. They held their own, had thwarted attacks, had been able to attack on their own. But it was at that point where you kind of knew, if you weren't already locked down at that point, you probably need to be.
Yeah, just lock it down defensively. Just take care of it. Just ride this thing out. You got, a couple minutes left, 10 minutes left. 79th minute, they decide to not ride it out. Delaney, with the goal, really came out of nowhere in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool had still been dominating the flow of play, had chances, and then boom, all of a sudden Palace are back in it.
Yeah, I mean, those first 2 Palace goals were worked off that counter. Dwight Gale followed just minutes later.
Yeah, and that's a guy, I kind of built him up a little bit at the beginning of the season as a guy to watch this year. I thought he was really impressive. Then he completely fell off the map.
And then Dwight Gale said, 1 is not enough.
No, I would like another, sir.
I'm going to take me another.
And he did.
88th minute.
Late game dramatics.
The equalizer. And then it was just people watching from that moment on.
Yeah, I mean, no one really did much of anything. Neither side looked bothered at all.
You had Victor Moses
kind of stand as much as some of them are capable of doing so, but
yeah, the man with the pelican neck was not capable.
Yeah.
Outside of Victor Moses with that one sort of opportunity, Liverpool really didn't have too much going for them. I mean, they tried to keep it in the Palace end, and even that was not completely possible for them.
Right.
Final whistle blows, and Liverpool knew what was up.
Mm-hmm.
The title that they thought was in their grasp just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it slipped.
Slipped.
There it is again.
There it is. Slipped right out of their hands. You saw Suarez immediately putting the jersey over his face a la Adam Morrison.
Yeah.
In the NCAA tournament years back with his terrible mustache.
Horrible
acne.
This time it was just a horrible racist that bites people just sobbing into the inside of his shirt. You could see that it was actually a sob because there was kind of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't hear it, but you could see it. It was definitely that. Which is funny because he'd spent the previous 10 minutes shaking his head and laughing at the misfortunes of his teammates and himself. So,
yeah, you had a thought that maybe he was actually putting the jersey over his face because he was getting vertigo or some kind of dizziness because he'd spent the last 10 minutes just shaking his head laughing. I can't believe this is happening.
I can't believe I've done so much. I've missed the first 5 games of this season and I've scored 1 million goals despite being a racist bastard. And still, didn't much matter.
No, didn't much matter.
All of his sarcasm
Stevie
amounted
G
to much.
Looking dejected as well as you almost feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Because he is
if I'm sad for anyone, it is for Steven Gerrard. He's been through a lot as a player, has had a lot of doubters. His side had been mostly mediocre for a majority of his tenure. And he's not really ever been able to do it on home soil. They had the great comeback in Istanbul, the original inverse of the Istanbul that we had over the last week or so. But
I believe that's now called reverse Christanbul.
Reverse Christanbul, yeah. I like your term better. I like that way better.
So we got to see a lot of dejected faces, a lot of sad faces. Gentleman in a blue shirt ate a booger around.
You love that. We watched that 2 or 3 times, and you can't see Jeremy right now, but he is legitimately lolling. I mean, there is real lulls happening in my family room right now. We watched dejected fans. They panned in, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant broadcasting. I mean, this is something you pointed out while we were watching it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was complete silence. You know,
Yeah,
they let the atmosphere
Arlo
go.
White and whoever it was. I have no idea who any of the color commentators have been all season. They've been just good enough to where I haven't noticed them like a referee.
Mm-hmm. As they should be.
And yeah, they just laid out, a la Vince Scully when Kirk Gibson hit that magical home run on a broken leg.
Right.
Just laid out. Just let the crowd, the atmosphere, the moment speak for itself.
And it did.
Absolutely.
The emotion you could see on that face as you watched, as you pretended to see on Luis Suarez's face through his T-shirt.
Uh-huh.
You could just feel how upset and how dejected a lot of those players were, and I think it made for fabulous television.
Except when that guy ate that booker.
Yeah. So what Jeremy really keeps getting back around to is we watched all this dejection on the pitch, but then they spend some time zooming in on the crowd, as they tend to do for big events like this.
You gotta get the crowd shot.
Gotta see what's going on with them.
And
a very upset fan, not of the winning side, one would imagine, went to town, rotor-rooting his nose, and feeding the waste to his mouth.
It was a seamless pinky move.
Yeah.
Just boom, rotate in.
So
nose to mouth.
Yeah.
In a second.
Jeremy's favorite moment of the entire match, since the rest of it didn't quite go the way he had hoped.
Liverpool picking their nose. That's how the season ends for them. Just a guy just eating a booger.
Oh, geez. The things we see.
Something we also saw, and apparently the boss of said intern at White Hart Lane didn't see right away, was an interesting peacocking style tweet from the Spurs official Twitter account.
Yeah, so the actual Tottenham Twitter account made a boo-boo tonight, and it's probably the type of boo-boo that we'll see someone lose their job tomorrow morning.
Or summer internship.
Essentially what happened is they posted a Vine video of Tottenham rival Liverpool's demise.
Yeah,
and
just
how
perfectly timed out. It first started out with Stevie G giving his famous, "We're not going to let this effing slip."
And then his slip was
his slip with a comical, cartoon-like slipping sound effect.
The old whoop!
And then the final equalizing goal from Dwight Gale, followed by Tony Pulis laughing hysterically in the post-game press conference.
Yeah. I mean, it was just
a great Vine video.
It was a great Vine video, and to be fair, whatever Spurs media person who's going to lose their job tomorrow morning is that put that up, it was funny and definitely worth the retweet. But here's what I think happened here. It was clearly a guy who works for the club, whether he's an intern or a paid person, we don't know, but he has two Twitter accounts, his own personal account and the Spurs official account he's responsible for tweeting from throughout the course of games.
He tweeted off the wrong one.
And he tweeted off the wrong one.
So obviously everyone had their reactions to the unfortunate demise of Liverpool's 2013-2014 campaign.
Right.
I took no pleasure in it.
No?
No.
Why is that?
Because I'm lying to you right now.
Okay. You did a great job of convincing me otherwise.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's some people pointed out, that Chelsea, they had their own demise. Chelsea's demise has been a slow bleed for the past month and a half.
Yeah. I mean, it's been ongoing.
4 or 5 results that were terrible against bad opponents.
Yeah, and I believe that same person pointed out that Spurs, they get how Spurs feel because
that's been a slow bleed since
the first game of the season in
Much.
August. Yeah, so it's a little bit different. You obviously feel for Liverpool fans to an extent, but at the same time, they've been an awfully cocky bunch. A group that boasted for a while, just weeks ago about how they were so sure they were going to win the league.
It's destiny.
Yeah. Destiny isn't necessarily always written the way that we think it is. So I wouldn't be so shocked if maybe a bunch of Liverpool fans leave next weekend feeling a little dejected. But if that's the way it goes for you, maybe that's exactly what you deserve. Point your nose down. What? So you want to take a quick look at the table?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So with that Liverpool loss, with that Liverpool tie.
Felt like a loss.
Yeah, it did feel like a loss. That leaves them on 81 points. So they are still just a hair above City in the standings, but City still have that game in hand on 80 points. Still have that massive goal differential to their advantage. So 9 goals difference between them and Liverpool. So right now, it's out of Liverpool's hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if City win out, then obviously they're going to end up being champions unless Liverpool can win their last match by an astronomical sum.
So the City plays Wednesday and then on the weekend.
Right. So there's the next one that's in there.
Yeah.
But overall, City seem like they've got at least one hand on the trophy. But we've heard people say that before, even about Liverpool at times. So
about 4 clubs that have had a hand on the trophy this year.
Speaking of clubs that may have had their hands on the trophy at one point or another, Chelsea are in third on 79 points. So they're only a point behind City.
We keep our hand where it belongs.
Behind them are Arsenal. They have 4th place now wrapped up. Again, their indifferent display was about what to expect from a side that had already been mailing it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Behind them are Everton in 5th place. That's a Europa League place there. Spurs, again, unless they have some astronomical number of goals this weekend, and we're talking about in excess of 20 goals, are mathematically ruled out of actually climbing up a spot.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah, there is, Jim Carrey.
Telling me there's a chance.
There is a chance. United in 7th place on 60 points. They have absolutely zero hope of making it into Europe at this point, so let's all rejoice. Just do a little dance for ourselves.
89 was the last time they didn't qualify for European competition.
I mean, that was a long time ago.
Bit of a while.
I was 7, so do that math, kids. Rounding out the rest of the top 10, Southampton at 8, Newcastle at 9th, and Stoke City all the way up in 10th place.
There was some other action going on in Europe over the week. Of course, the final leg of the Champions League semifinals. Let's go with Tuesday. We'll start there on Tuesday as Bayern Munich hosting Real Madrid and...
Only down 1-0.
Yeah, only 1-0. They coming home, so you're thinking...
Probably a favored team at that point, right?
They control things at home.
They had Pep Guardiola as their manager.
I hear he's good.
Yeah, that's the word.
He learned German, and yeah, he's...
Brought his tiki-taka all the way to Bavaria.
And they did control the match. Unfortunately, they didn't control the part where you score goals.
Yeah, so the same thing they struggled with in Madrid was what they struggled with in Germany as well. Never really looked that threatening in front of goal. No real clear opportunities. Madrid, again, looked dangerous countering.
Oh, dangerous is an understatement.
And even when Bayern were controlling things, you always kind of wondered and thought that Madrid were going to be the side that actually did something with it.
Great day for Gus Johnson as the 2 names he loves to say the most. Both had braces. Ramos.
Yeah.
And Ronaldo.
Yeah.
With the braces.
The only person he really missed out on was Müller.
He loves old Müller.
Yeah. I'll say this much.
Yeah.
I am dreading the 2018 World Cup. I'm dreading the Women's World Cup next summer. Fox is first in charge.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because we're going to have to
We're dipping right into that, aren't we?
And I think we need to call this. It's the, it's the Gus and Eric show.
Yeah.
And
is there going to be a Gus Johnson drinking game?
Oh, God. I don't know.
When he overpronounces the umlaut, drink 2
You get
beers.
wasted. If he misses a diacritic mark in someone's name. Don't worry too much about it.
If he yells from the 6, just drink your entire fridge.
Will you do it?
Only if you do it with me.
Okay.
It was in a lot of ways, though, the match was the public shaming of possession football.
Yeah. And everyone really just kind of lit into Pep. Obviously they go down 4-0, knocked out of the Champions League, high expectations. A lot of people talked about this Bayern side potentially being one of the best ever, even as good as Guardiola's previous Barcelona teams. And maybe they were and maybe they weren't. But the death of possession football, doesn't that seem a little dramatic?
I don't know the death of possession football, but maybe the rolled up newspaper bat on the nose of possession football?
No, I think that's an accurate statement. And I think this is something that's worth pointing out for, a coach like Guardiola who received a lot of criticism for the matches. Both of the games, he seemed to not really have a good backup option. And I think that's always been Guardiola's thing. If you rely so much on possession and don't have any way to switch the game style up and make it unpredictable so that the opponents can't track you any longer, you're probably going to be done. And
they gave up 4 goals at home.
That's a lot of goals.
You really didn't think you were really seeing that, right, when you were watching this? They were really giving up this much at home.
Stings.
It was a 5-0 aggregate, and Real Madrid moved on to set up Wednesday. Who would it be? Would it be Jose Mourinho coming back to face his old club, or the crosstown rivals?
Wow.
Well, it was clearly the crosstown rivals. Chelsea won. Atletico Madrid 3. Torres scoring in the first half. It's looking good. He doesn't celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's happy.
He, of course, didn't celebrate because this is his old club.
Possibly his future club.
Possibly.
But then, again, it's almost a bit of a shaming of possession football as Chelsea played more of the possession role, which is something that has proven to not work well for them.
No, and it didn't this time either.
No,
so.
Which is funny because you had the Jose haters, the same ones who were coming out saying that Jose plays this super negative defensive football, and yet then here we are, the same people going, oh, these guys suck at playing possession football.
Right.
Well, what would you like us to do, sir? Because you hate either one.
Well, we just want you to do what we're expecting when we want you to do those things.
Right before half, though, things were knotted up as Adrian put it in. Ball kind of looping right at the goal. Kind of looked like it was going out. Hazard broke off chase. And yet it tipped back in towards goal and put in. And that was pretty much when things
went south for you guys? Yeah.
Left Chelsea's hands quickly. A early second half sub in Samuel Eto'o quickly draws a penalty, and Costa converts. And that was pretty much it. They go on to score another, and it's a 3-1 final, 3-1 aggregate.
All-Madrid.
All-Madrid final.
Yeah.
You ready?
I think this will be a spectacular match. Two teams that are pretty reliant on counterattacking football, and I don't think we will see either one of them really be too pragmatic and sit back and try to wait for a mistake from the other side. I think they're going to want to try to force them. So maybe we'll find differing, hosts and opinion makers and all those kind of things with different outlooks on it, but no, I don't think so.
If you were to handicap it right now?
Madrid.
Good call.
Yeah.
Let's move stateside. MLS. Where would you like to start with the painful local match or some of the painful matches for other people that we can just laugh about?
Let's just peel off the Band-Aid.
Okay, peel off the Band-Aid. KC 2. C-Bus 0.
Yeah. So, one, we got to see kind of what Kansas City are all about. They're about grinding out results. And grinding out results is exactly what they did. totally outfouled the Crew. Were the more physical side. It's a narrow pitch in Kansas City, despite having this gorgeous stadium. They kind of have a narrow pitch, and Kansas City do a really good job of funneling you to the middle of the field, squeezing you out, and counterattacking. And the Crew are a side that are really, really susceptible to turnovers in the back and counterattacks.
Yeah, I think you tweeted out a great retweet from somebody that, the way that the Crew played through most of the match, you would figure would have been okay if you were under the assumption that the team had just met each other 30 minutes prior.
Yeah. I mean, there didn't seem to be any sort of cohesiveness between any of the Crew players at all. And it felt uncomfortable at times. The way that they were moving with one another. Pipe Higuain, Crew's most mercurial player, was having to dip way, way back to actually even receive the ball. A guy you like to have sitting, up towards the front, if not right behind your forwards, was coming back as deep as the actual defenders themselves to pick up the ball. So we got to see Sporting Kansas City just choke out another team that is a possession-oriented side. And
Crew were a side out of sorts.
Yeah. No part of them really looked sharp at all. So it was a stern test for the Crew, something that they kind of needed to measure themselves and see how far they've actually progressed. And it's clear that there's still a bit of a body of work left to shape this Crew side.
Well, in true Ohio fashion, just like the other Ohio professional teams on a national broadcast, they choked.
Yes.
Completely underwhelming and just blech. It was if they were not ready to play.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a very accurate way of looking at it.
Let's move around, though. Toronto 1, New England 2. Toronto take the early lead in this one, and then Patrick Moulin, 11th pick in the draft, gets his goal to equalize things, and then kind of plays a part in a late handball in the box that sets up a late PK winner for New England. That was the first time that New England got all 3 points in Toronto.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. The other thing I find kind of interesting about this match is the fact that Toronto are like this unwieldy spending side in MLS, at least as far as MLS allows for. And things haven't exactly gone the way that they would have expected this season.
No, much like Columbus, they have quickly cooled off from their hot start.
And the injury to Jermaine Defoe has obviously played a really big part in that.
Yeah, he came back, and he was still even not much of a factor.
Yeah. So I'm intrigued to see how that continues to play out, because it's going to be a storyline to continue watching.
Portland 3, DC United 2. Portland gave up the lead in the 78th minute off a corner to make it 2-2. And then the 95th minute, off a corner, Rudy, great, really interesting corner. They didn't try to just play your typical looping cross to the far post, but actually played the ball out, kind of drew the defense out, and then drove in and struck.
Yeah.
Great match there with the winner there at the death. Another match that switched narratives late.
Yep.
Chicago 2, Real Salt Lake 3.
Yeah, and this was extra late when the narrative switched.
This was pretty much insanity. Early goals, including one from Mike McGee, gave Chicago a 2-0 lead. Takes it all the way to the 70th minute.
Before they pull one back.
Plata puts one in.
Believe.
Thinking,
just a little belief.
Hey, it's 2-1.
Maybe we could do this.
There's not much time left.
Okay.
But it's 2-1. Sabarillo, 89th minute, equalizes things, and you're thinking, how did this got away from ourselves here?
Right.
If you're Chicago, you're already dejected. Just much like Liverpool, you had this thing in the bag.
Yeah, you did. Now you're looking at having 15 carts strapped together trying to carry all
The
your
ink was
stuff
drying on those 3 points.
Right.
And then much later into stoppage time, Plata again with the winner in the matter of the final 20 minutes. Salt Lake goes from being 2 down to a goal up and takes all 3.
Well, I mean, both the last goals were in injury time as well. So,
yeah.
I mean, we're talking about not just the last 20 minutes. We're talking about literally last gasp type of stuff.
So good weekend of MLS.
Mm-hmm.
I know Landon Donovan went another week without breaking his record.
Yeah. No goals for him.
No.
Colorado are kind of finding the form that was kind of spurring them on towards the end of last season. Their defense is starting to tighten up. Our good friend Clint Irwin from the goalkeeper for Colorado is really starting to find his stride again as well. So big win for them. LA continuing to slump and be a bit disappointing.
Yeah. I feel like they kind of did this a little bit last year.
They do this
so
every
year.
year.
They were a little schlocky.
Yeah, they do enough to get into the into the actual cup, and then they battle it out and win it.
So they're the San Antonio Spurs of the MLS.
Yeah, that's very accurate.
Did we have a question?
We did have a question. It was kind of
listener questions.
It's kind of an MLS related question, so this ties in nicely. And this comes from longtime listener Mel B. Also has a soccer related name that she's brought on under your boot soles.
It's too long for me to remember.
Yeah, it's too many words for me. Says the guy that can't fit his blog's name onto his Twitter handle. But what Melissa wanted to know about was a little bit more about the YSA. So if you're an MLS fan at all,
Youth Soccer Association?
Yeah, not Youth Soccer Association, but you've heard about it. And you've maybe even heard it. But you may not know what YSA is, and that is the all-too-favorite chant of a large, immature set of the MLS fan base that likes to cheer, "You suck, asshole," after goal kicks.
That's genius.
And no doubt you've heard this before. If you've watched an MLS game before, any of the televised games in particular, you're going to hear this. If you sit anywhere near the supporters sections in the stadiums, you're going to hear this. And the league knows it's a problem. It's a bad PR move. They don't like the sound of it. But what do they do to actually rectify that situation?
They've been kind of trying to figure this out. They've been vocally trying to come up with ways to combat this situation.
Right.
I know they've thrown around the ideas of like we see in Europe, of punishing the club for the fans' behaviors.
Yeah, maybe.
Or, you hear stuff maybe punishing the supporters groups.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's been postured before. So anyway, with that happening, and Melissa explained the situation, how she, brought up, she's a more recent fan of the game, finally convinced her mom to come out, and she got to hear that as a chant, in the seats they were sitting within. So she was concerned about how that might appear to U.S. fans, people who are a little predisposed to that kind of stuff. And what she wanted to know was, how does this, how's the FCC deal with this? And this is something I'm going to let you kind of take the turn on, because you're a little bit more versed in what the FCC does and doesn't allow for. But if someone screams, "You suck, asshole," over a broadcast, what does that do for the station itself?
So two things on that. And it's been a few years since I've had to actually take like FCC classes. But
well, what the hell?
Son of a... Oh, yeah.
We're not compliant with our podcast.
Two things on that. One, as far as I'm concerned, unless they've tried to make some late changes that I'm not aware of, stuff like that, which is considered incidental things, crowd mic picking up swearing, a field mic picking up a player cussing, generally is looked at as just incidental. You can't fault the rights holder, you can't fault the broadcaster. So generally speaking, you don't see anybody getting in trouble on that.
Okay. Okay.
Also, to that, by and large, MLS broadcasts are on what? Cable TV?
Right.
Cable TV, for the most part, really doesn't operate under FCC guidelines.
Okay.
As much as it kind of stays in tow with what is the standard norm for guidelines, words you say, words you don't say, stuff like that, it's really not totally governed by the FCC in the way that broadcast television or the radio
might be.
Yeah.
Got it. Cool. So the next part of her question was, as members of supporters organizations, so I've been a member of U.S. supporters organizations, a Spurs supporter as well, card-carrying member there. She wants to know, do you think MLS has handled this issue well by issuing letters off to the supporters group themselves, trying to directly punish them and blame them for the problem? Because for me, I think it's a little unfair. I think the clubs need to do a bit of a better job of policing themselves.
I don't know. I think I disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think the supporter unions are going to be the best gauge at policing their own.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it also depends on where you are in the life cycle of your club. If you're really dependent on those supporters as a means to keep things in the red or out of the red, maybe you do what you can to appease the group. So there's a lot at play here. There's definitely a lot at play.
No, I get that. As far as punishment goes, I feel like it would take MLS in a direction that, while might be in step with the rest of the soccer world, would be completely foreign to the American sports world.
Right.
Of actively sanctioning fans.
Mm-hmm.
That would be pretty unprecedented. In America. Obviously, guys throw crap on the field or some dude streaks, whatever. They're taken care of, they're removed, they're banned, they're arrested, whatever.
Right.
But that kind of policing and threatening by saying, we're not going to sell you tickets or whatever, that's a different animal.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see how the American public would handle such an
atrocity.
An interesting circumstance.
Yeah. Well, Melissa did pester us with one more question as well. Still on the same subject. As parents who plan to take or have already taken their children to MLS matches, I think I'm the one who's already taken my kid to an MLS match. You haven't yet done that.
No.
I'm sure soon enough when you're ready to, get out the clown car to pack everyone up and get them all up there.
Yeah, I'll take my son here soon.
Yeah.
Girls are a little fun.
Girls aren't quite ready for it.
No.
But bearing that all in mind, how do you feel about the YSA chants? Are you concerned about him hearing it? Do you feel like you could, talk around it, ignore it? How would you actually approach that situation?
Yeah, I mean, while I wouldn't be thrilled for him to hear it and possibly, depending on the age, that age of where they like to repeat everything they hear.
Right.
That would be problematic, but if you take your child to a sporting event, that is a risk you are taking no matter if it's a Cincinnati Reds game, an NFL game. I mean, NFL games, I by and large, the nonsense that goes on in the stands at NFL games pale in comparison to what's going on at the average MLS match. There you're talking about just drunk people just fist fighting each other in the aisles.
Right.
There were, I think, upwards of 8 police-reported incidents at the Bengals-Steelers Monday Nighter a year or so ago.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Including one guy being removed on a stretcher because he was possibly paralyzed.
Yeah.
So you're going to run the risk, regardless of where you're going. That's when you're taking them to an event that is largely adults and alcohol is being served. If you think you're going to go and sit there for however long and not hear something that you don't want your child to hear, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
So as far as the chant goes, it's just like having the guy next to you spout off.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen, and you have to be ready to deal with it.
Yeah.
How I would, I have no idea.
I mean, you can't sit on the bus and guard your kid while they're, riding to school and make sure they don't hear any cuss words. And calling it a teaching moment, regardless of how you want to look at the connotations of that word or that phrase, isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I think if you can adequately frame its use and help the kids to understand that's an adult word only and kind of take it from there, maybe it'll all work out. But overall, I wouldn't be too concerned about it, No,
not any more concerned about than anything else.
No. So
is that it for questions?
That is it for questions.
Well, as we always solicit questions, we are going to solicit something different for next week.
Yeah, we're going to give you some heads up this time around.
Yeah, I threw it out on Twitter, I think, over the weekend. Something we really want to have you guys help us out with. Next week is obviously our season wrap-up. We're going to recap the highs and lows of the season, talk a little bit about our favorite parts. But the other thing is we want to, as I like to put it, eulogize our club's season.
Yeah, because most of us died slow, painful deaths. Well, at least Spurs did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eulogize the season of your club, whoever that is. Write it down. Email it to us at email addresses.
Contact at wrongsideofthepond.com. You could also reach me at dj@wrongsideofthepond.com or jeremy at wrongsideofthepond.com to reach Jeremy, of course. And of course, you can always still hit us up on Twitter at Jeremy Lance, at wrongsideofpond.
Yeah, let us know. Whoever your club is, we'll read these next week. You just give a nice little summation of what you felt happened. Where it went wrong, what went right, who you were excited about.
100 words to kind of wrap up how your season went for you as a supporter. We want to be able to tell it from the heart, not just from our two clubs, because obviously
and
you've gotten to hear that all season long.
And even if you share the same love that the two of us have with either Chelsea or Spurs, send that in as well, because maybe you saw things a little bit differently than we did.
Yeah. Everyone's got a different opinion. You're entitled to that.
So, I'm sure we're going to get a couple Arsenal ones.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a few Liverpool ones.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be a few of those packed in there.
Yeah, we'll try to read as much as we can of them and kind of siphon through all of the opinions of how it all went down.
Yeah, absolutely.
This year. So, big thing next week. Let's quickly, next week, your final week.
You're looking at the final round of fixtures. All of them are on Sunday. Every single one of them, Sunday, 10 a.m.
Yep, 10 a.m.
Eastern
on
time.
the East Coast.
Yeah, so if you're on West Coast, you'll know that that's a 7 a.m. tip-off there. But all of them going down because we don't want to give anyone an advantage and because we have the potential for more madness like we had a couple years ago.
And some of that madness might be set up by a Wednesday match.
Mm-hmm.
City will play Villa on Wednesday. And then the weekend comes Sunday. Again, all 10 a.m. start times. Cardiff hosting Chelsea, Norwich hosting Arsenal, Liverpool hosting Newcastle, and City hosting West Ham. Those are the big guns, and that's where the fun is going to happen.
Yeah. So none of the matchups particularly juicy.
No, not in the least.
But depending on how they go, we could get all sorts of fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easily the most exciting day of the Premier League season. I'm debating skipping my own soccer this weekend to ensure that I can watch it all and live tweet it. So you folks who can't watch it live will have my words to get through it. I'm sure Jeremy will be up tweeting as much of it as he possibly can.
It's Mother's Day, so I will be at church.
Well, then I guess it's up to me to do it.
It's all on you.
No one else will be doing this, of course. So Wrong Side of the Pond is the only place you'll be able to get the live tweets or something along those lines.
MLS action Wednesday. A fair bit of matches. Houston, Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle takes on Dallas. San Jose, Colorado. By the way, San Jose got smacked by Vancouver this week. I don't know
They
if
really
you saw
did.
that.
Vancouver is going to be one of those sleeper sides in
Yeah.
MLS this year.
And then the weekend, sleeper side Vancouver will be in Columbus. Philly and DC, Montreal, Kansas City, Portland will take on LA, Houston, they host Salt Lake, and the Battle of the Coasts, well, I guess next year or the years to come, it'll probably be somewhere in Florida would be the farthest trip, but Seattle to New England,
Yeah.
that's a bit of a poke.
Yeah. I mean, I think that'll be a hefty haul.
So yeah, that is your weekend lineup. Anything else?
No. I think we've got a lot of action ahead of us. The FA Cup's still 2 weeks off, so we can preview that.
What is that
last
about?
week. Yeah, I don't know.
Because I use this app called Time Hop, which basically every day it sends me what my tweets and Facebook posts from the last couple of years on that date were. And here on a Monday is 2 years to the date of when Chelsea beat Liverpool in the FA Cup final.
Well, there's a nice stat.
It was before the Champions League final and before the end of the season.
Well, the FA Cup, the FA need the last laugh,
They really need you to watch this because it is a dying brand.
Well, they're just trying to make sure they slip themselves in as much as possible.
That's all I got.
That's all I got as well.
Thank you for all the booze you gave me tonight.
No problem. I'm just going to pass out right here.
You almost passed out in the middle of this podcast.
Yeah, I got close a couple times. So, as always, thanks very much, kids.
All right, folks.
Catch you soon.
See you.